This is the Vanguard Plaza Hotel, standing tall in Manhattan, New York. It is a prestigious place visited by VIPs from all over the world. A taxi stopped at the main entrance. Stepping out was Eleanor Vance, 70 years old. She wore a simple gray dress and carried a leather handbag. Her expression was calm and full of dignity. The reservation confirmation paper in Mrs. Vance's hand had the word suite printed on it. The New York penthouse suite. Correct. Thank you, ma'am. Mrs. Vance responded with a gentle nod to the hotel staff's attentive guidance. As she was about to take the elevator up to the top floor, a blonde receptionist approached. Chloe Harrison, a 28-year-old American, looked at Mrs. Vance with a contemptuous gaze. Why is a guest who is an old woman only suitable for a standard room staying here? Chloe's voice echoed throughout the lobby. Other guests passing by also stopped and stared. Mrs. Vance calmly took out her reservation confirmation slip. Here is my reservation slip. However, Chloe did not bother to look at the reservation slip. Someone like you doesn't even understand what is being said. This is the penthouse suite. Its prestige will be diminished when someone like you stays here. The atmosphere on the floor became heavy because of those words. The other guests looked embarrassed, but no one spoke up. Mrs. Vance remained calm. Could you please reconfirm the reservation she requested again, in a polite tone? However, Chloe's attitude worsened. Who gave you permission to talk back to me? People like you should go have coffee at the cafe in the basement. At this moment, Mrs. Vance silently took out her smartphone. She tapped the screen and started recording a video. I see. In that case, I will move to a different room. Mrs. Vance's voice remained calm. As she stood up, a badge briefly flashed from her handbag. It was a high-end-looking gold badge. However, Chloe neither recognized nor bothered to look at it. There is a vacant room on basement floor B1. That place suits you better, Chloe said with a sneer. Mrs. Vance slowly walked toward the elevator. Excuse me. She gave a slight nod to the observing guests and quietly left. 5 minutes later, a young bellhop was watching Mrs. Vance's back as she walked down the basement floor in one corridor. Ethan Cole, a 25-year-old American, felt heartbroken by what had just happened. As Mrs. Vance checked into the cramped room on basement floor B1, Ethan apologized while carrying her luggage. I am truly sorry. Chloe's attitude. Mrs. Vance smiled and replied, Never mind, sometimes things like this happen. When she was alone in the room, Mrs. Vance quietly checked her email on her smartphone. The screen displayed an email with the subject line, Expected completion of acquisition procedures. Mrs. Vance took an old photograph out of her handbag. The photo showed a young Mrs. Vance and a man with a gentle smile. Edward. Our hotel full of memories has ended up like this, she quietly said to the photo. But it's okay. I will keep my promise to you. It was dinner time. A luxurious dinner was served at the restaurant on the top floor. As Ms. Vance went to the restaurant, she encountered Chloe again at the entrance. Oh, it's you again! There is a dress code here. You can't enter in those clothes. Is that so? Mrs. Vance replied calmly. You can go to the cafe in the basement. That place suits you better, Chloe said mockingly. At the cafe, cold sandwiches and instant soup were served. Mrs. Vance quietly ate without complaining. Just then, Ethan secretly approached and whispered, This is a secret. He handed her a bowl of hot soup and bread. This is food from the actual restaurant. At least take this much. Mrs. Vance looked at Ethan. You are a good young man. Thank you. You're welcome. It is the right thing to do. All customers should be treated equally. I'm sorry I can't do anything more. Mrs. Vance's eyes softened slightly at those words. My husband used to say the same thing. Your husband. Yes, back when we first started this hotel, Mrs. Vance whispered with a faraway look in her eyes. Ethan felt that something was amiss. The phrase, back when we first started this hotel, made him wonder. That night, Mrs. Vance opened her laptop in the room. The stock price chart of the hotel chain was displayed on the screen. The acquisition price was $85 per share, a total of $2.8 billion. Mrs. Vance checked the document and nodded with satisfaction. The next morning, it was breakfast time in the hotel lobby. As Mrs. Vance walked toward the cafe, Chloe appeared again. Still here. You don't have money yet. You dare to stay. Chloe deliberately spoke loudly in front of the other staff. The hotel's elegance is reduced by letting people like that stay. The surrounding staff also laughed awkwardly. No one tried to stop her. Mrs. Vance silently listened to those words. Just then, an elderly man sitting in the corner of the lobby was staring intently at Mrs. Vance. Robert Wilson, a 65-year-old American businessman, sensed something special from Mrs. Vance's demeanor. This dignity, I seem to have seen it somewhere before. Robert took out his smartphone and started searching. Founder of Vanguard Plaza Hotel. Robert held his breath when he saw the old photograph displayed on the screen. No way. The photo showed a young American couple. Robert hurriedly made a phone call. Check this urgently for me. The recent stock situation of Vanguard Plaza and information about Mallard Eleanor Vance. The person on the other end of the line replied. Actually, there was important news this morning. Someone is buying a large number of shares of the hotel chain and is about to reach the oversold level. Just as I thought. Robert was sure. Meanwhile, Chloe continued talking to her colleague in the staff room in a tone of, "This is so annoying, those poor people shouldn't be here." But Chloe, they are customers after all, a young employee said. Tentatively. Customers. Are you kidding? People who don't have money are not customers. A colleague warned her, but Chloe did not care. It's okay. She's just a poor, stubborn old woman. Ethan heard the conversation and could not tolerate it anymore. He went to see the head of reception. Excuse me, I want to discuss Chloe's behavior. What is it? Ethan recounted in detail what had happened yesterday. The head of reception's face darkened. That is a serious matter, but it is still working hours now. We will deal with it later. But that guest is clearly not an ordinary person. The head of reception frowned at Ethan's words. What do you mean? I feel like I have met her somewhere before. Moreover, she is a very dignified person. Just then, the general manager's office called. Head of reception, have you confirmed the guest? I apologize. I have not confirmed yet. It must be Mrs. Vance, the American guest staying here. She is a very important person, so you must serve her as well as possible for me. The head of reception and Ethan looked at each other. Mrs. Vance. Could it be? Ethan and the head of reception hurriedly checked the guest list and suddenly stopped at the line. Mrs. Eleanor Vance, Special Note President of the International Hotel Association. As soon as he saw those words, the head of reception's face turned pale. This is a big problem. He quickly called Chloe. Chloe, I want to ask about the guest you moved from the penthouse suite yesterday. Ah, that old woman. Of course, because it was the wrong person, Chloe replied triumphantly. Which room is she in? Basement floor B. When I guided her to a suitable place. The head of reception held his head. You might have done something irreparable. What do you mean? Chloe still did not understand the seriousness of the issue. That guest is the president of the International Hotel Association. So what? I have never heard of it. The head of reception continued with a trembling voice. She is the person with the highest authority in the hotel industry, and the headquarters contacted us saying that an important figure is secretly staying. No way, Chloe said with an unbelieving expression, and left with a sneer. Just then, Robert, the elderly man sitting in the corner of the lobby, approached the head of reception. "Excuse me, I am Robert Wilson. I have an urgent matter to report. What is wrong with you? About Mrs. Vance, perhaps?" Hearing Robert's words, the head of reception was speechless. At 3:15 p.m., a decisive announcement came to Mrs. Vance's smartphone. Final procedures completed. 51% of the Vanguard Plaza Hotel. Chain shares have been acquired. Thereby, she has become the largest shareholder. In the basement room, Mrs. Vance quietly stood up. "Edward." It is time to fulfill the promise. She adjusted her clothes in the mirror and took out something carefully kept in her handbag. A heavy, gleaming gold badge. The words, "President of the International Hotel Association," were clearly engraved. It was checkout time. Mrs. Vance took the elevator down to the lobby. At the reception desk, Chloe was serving another guest, and when she saw Mrs. Vance, she clearly showed her annoyance. "Oh, finally leaving. Do you have enough money?" The surrounding staff also laughed lightly at Chloe's mocking words. Mrs. Vance quietly approached the counter. "I would like to check out." Never come back here again for the sake of this hotel," Chloe said, while roughly handling the documents. Mrs. Vance silently waited for the procedure. Just then, many luxury black cars consecutively parked in front of the hotel's main entrance. The doorman hastily ran over. "What is going on?" Men and women in suits stepped out of the cars. One of them, the hotel chain's head of legal affairs, entered the lobby with a pale face. "Emergency situation. Everyone gather immediately." The head of reception, surprised, ran over. "What is the matter? Why the panic? Where is Mrs. Eleanor Vance, Miss Vance?" The head of reception's face turned pale. What Robert had just said was about to come true. The head of legal affairs continued with a trembling voice. "Just 15 minutes ago, 51% of our hotel chain's shares were acquired. The new owner is Mrs. Eleanor Vance." The hotel lobby was silent for a moment, and after investigation, Ms. Eleanor Vance is... An executive took a deep breath. "She is the wife of the legendary founder who established this hotel 25 years ago. Currently, she is also the president of the International Hotel Association." Another executive hurried in. "Further confirmation has been made. President Vance has been secretly staying at this hotel for 2 days for a random inspection. Check the guest list." The staff panicked and operated the computers. Mrs. Eleanor B. Buer Vance, the narrowest room on basement floor 1. Everyone held their breath. The blood drained from Chloe's face. Wait a minute. Is that the woman?" Checking out, everyone's eyes turned to the elderly woman in simple attire, standing at the checkout counter. Mrs. Vance smiled calmly. The head of reception asked with a pale face, "Are you President Vance?" Mrs. Vance slowly took out the badge. The gold badge glittered under the lobby light. The head of legal affairs and the executives bowed deeply. "President Vance, we apologize. We did not expect something like this to happen. It's okay. This is what I wanted." Mrs. Vance took out her smartphone. "I invite everyone to look at this." On the screen was the notification email from the legal office. Notification of stock transaction completion. Today at 3:15 p.m., over half of the Vanguard Plaza Hotel. Chain shares were acquired, making her the de facto owner. A guest in the lobby exclaimed in surprise, "You bought the hotel chain?" Ms. Vance replied calmly, "Yes. From my experience during my time at the State Department, and my activities at the International Hotel Association, I have seen the fundamental problems of this industry. I realized the need to engage in actual management to improve service. Mrs. Vance's words were gentle, but contained iron will. The hotel executives gathered one by one. "Congratulations, President Vance, on completing the procedure." Mrs. Vance replied calmly, "Thank you, but immediately I have found some areas for improvement." Next, Ms. Vance showed everyone the video she had recorded on another screen. I invite everyone to see. This is the recording from the past 2 days. The screen played back all of Chloe's discriminatory behavior. The executive's expressions changed from surprise to horror. "This is terrible. We apologize. We will handle this immediately." Mrs. Vance quietly continued, "Discrimination is an issue I have always pursued since my time at the State Department, and most importantly," she paused for a moment, "the principle of welcoming everyone with all one's heart, the principle that my husband and I established together, has completely disappeared." Chloe remained frozen behind the counter. I am the new owner." Her legs began to tremble. The head of reception whispered to Chloe, "The person you discriminated against for the past 2 days is the owner of the company." Chloe nearly collapsed. "President Vance, why?" I have no words left to say. Mrs. Vance quietly looked at Chloe. In her eyes was not anger, but deep sadness. "Chloe-san, I have a question to ask you." Chloe tremblingly looked up. Yes, ma'am. Why do you work in a hotel?" Chloe was confused by the sudden question. "It is for the salary, ma'am. Only that—" Mrs. Vance's voice was gentle. "My husband and I still remember the first guest when we first established this hotel." Her gaze was distant. It was a rainy night. A young couple soaked ran in holding a baby. They had almost no money, but the baby had a fever. Everyone in the lobby listened to Mrs. Vance's story. My husband did not hesitate to prepare the best room. He said, "Money can wait first. Let's warm up the baby." Tears welled up in Mrs. Vance's eyes. That couple later became successful and became the hotel's biggest supporters. But that is just the result. The important thing is, she looked straight at Chloe, the heart to welcome everyone. That is the essence of a hotel. Chloe started crying. I was wrong." "Chloe-san," Mrs. Vance declared solemnly, "today I have decided to fire you." Chloe burst into sobs. However, Mrs. Vance continued. "However," everyone held their breath, "if you truly want to change, I will give you a chance to relearn from the beginning at the chain's training facility. There will be no salary until you truly understand what real service is." Chloe, with a tear-stained face, bowed deeply. "Thank you, ma'am. I will definitely study hard." Mrs. Vance nodded and turned her gaze to Ethan. "Ethan-san, please step forward." Ethan stepped forward with a tense expression. "For the past 2 days you have treated me kindly. You brought me a warm meal. That was the right thing to do, ma'am." "No, that is not the right thing to do. While everyone around was discriminating, only you had a human heart." Mrs. Vance announced to the executives, "I appoint Ethan Cole as the new employee training manager." Ethan's eyes widened in surprise. "Me?" "Yes. You carry the entrepreneurial spirit. Convey that to all the staff." Ethan was moved and bowed deeply. "I am honored. I will certainly meet your expectations." Mrs. Vance then looked at all the assembled staff. "Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, gather all staff in the large meeting room. This hotel will be reborn." The head of reception timidly asked, "What changes specifically, ma'am?" Mrs. Vance took out an old document from her handbag. "This is the founding philosophy written by my husband." Ethan tremblingly read aloud. Vanguard Plaza is the home of every traveler. Welcome with sincere hospitality regardless of wealth, race, or nationality, because today's traveler is tomorrow's friend. Tears flowed from the eyes of many staff members. This is the starting point. We will return here, Mrs. Vance continued. I will also change the evaluation standards, not only revenue, but also sincere thank you letters from customers in cases of helping people in difficulty. Those things will be the top priority. A young employee raised a hand. But what about profit? Sincere service will certainly bring profit. 25 years ago, we proved that. We will prove it again. Finally, Mrs. Vance took out the photo of her late husband. Edward, look, I will definitely reclaim your dream. And she spoke to everyone. In 1 week, I will return to this hotel to stay again. This time, as Eleanor Vance. I look forward to the changes you all will show me. As Mrs. Vance prepared to leave the hotel, all the staff naturally lined up and bowed deeply. Thank you, President Vance. Mrs. Vance turned back and smiled gently. No, thank you, everyone. You have shown me that this hotel still has hope. As she stepped out of the entrance, an old taxi was waiting, just like when she arrived. But this time, the doorman carefully opened the door, and all the staff came out to see her off. As the car drove away, Mrs. Vance quietly whispered, Edward, I have taken the first step. Now is the real beginning. Outside the window, the hotel staff were still waving. Their faces shone with new determination. And 1 year later, Vanguard Plaza Hotel was reborn as the most noticed hotel in the industry. It won the Sincere Hospitality Service Award and became a place visited by survey teams from all over the world. Ethan became an excellent educator, teaching genuine hospitality to many new employees. And Chloe. She completed the training and returned to work as a famous receptionist for always welcoming every customer with all her heart. When Mrs. Vance visited the hotel after a long time, Chloe was the first one to run over. President Vance, welcome back. We have been waiting for you with all our hearts. In her eyes, there was no longer the previous arrogance, but sincere service. Mrs. Vance nodded with satisfaction. Edward, do you see our hotel has finally returned? A new philosophy was prominently displayed in the lobby. Sincere hospitality to all. Vanguard Plaza Hotel had truly become the home of every traveler.